Okay, so this section will be conic sections. We'll cover circles, then ellipses, and hyperbolas and parabolas. And then the very last lesson, we're going to do solving quadratic systems. Okay, so this one is pretty simple. We're going to talk about the distance formula and the midpoint formula, which should be a review for y'all. You've done that in geometry. And then we'll get into the formula for circles. So the distance formula, hopefully you know. If not, you need to memorize it. So it's the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, where those x2, x1, y1, y2, all that comes from your two given points that I will provide. So if you're just finding the distance, if you need to label x1, y1, x2, y2 to keep it straight, you can. So you're going to take the difference of your x's squared. So 9 minus negative 5 turns into plus 5 squared, plus, take the difference of your y's, negative 11 minus 7 squared. Okay. Now, I know you could type that whole thing in your calculator. We are going to simplify 9 plus 5 squared, negative 11 minus 7 squared, put that there, and then get it all together. Okay? So, 9 plus 5 squared is going to give me what?
14 squared, which is 196.
Thank you. And then negative 11 minus 7 squared is going to give me, all right, and then 196 plus 324, $520. Yes? Okay. So then you would try to take the square root of that. Square root of 520 is not a perfect square, so we're going to have to simplify it. We're going to break it down. 520 splits into what? 2 and 260, 2 and 130, 2 and 65 splits into 5 and 13. Okay? I can have a pair of 2's. The 2, the 5, and the 13 are all left over. So the square root of 520 simplifies to 2 square root of what? 130. Okay? If you go straight from this very first step to the square root of 520, you're going to miss a point for the middle. Okay? Next example, you're finding the distance between 3, negative 2 and 3, 4. When I go and take the difference between my x's, I have 3 minus 3 squared plus 4 minus negative turns into a plus 2 squared. Well, 3 minus 3 is 0. 0 squared is just 0. I don't need to write that there. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 squared is 36. So what's my distance? 6. So if you get a 0, I'm obviously not going to require you to put that there. Now, if you have radicals, you're still going to treat that the exact same way with the same formula. So I've got 2 square root of 2 minus negative, so it turns into a positive 3 square root of 2 squared, plus negative 4 minus 8 squared. Yeah, so this is going to give you 5 squared of 2. 5 squared of 2 squared is going to be 25 times 2, which is 50. This is going to give you a negative 12 squared, which is 144. square root of 194. Is that a perfect square? No. So you would try to simplify it. That would split into 2 and what?
97.
So 97 split. You can try, but it's not going to. So I would not be able to simplify this. Okay? You should all be good with that. Midpoint formula, I give you 2 points. You've got to take the average of your x's, take the average of your y's. Those are your ordered pairs. So if I'm given -1, 6, and 11, 0, that's my x1, y1, x2, y2. Now you can either solve for your x value of the midpoint separate from your y value of the midpoint, or you can do it all together. I typically, if I'm given the 2 endpoints, I typically do it all together. So I'm going to take 11 plus a negative is just going to be a -1 over 2. And then I'm going to have 0 plus 6 over 2. Yes. x1 plus x2, y1 plus y2, it's all the same, so it really doesn't matter what order you're doing it in. Okay? So my midpoint here, 11 minus 1 is 10. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 6 divided by 2 is 3. M represents the midpoint. Now here, you're finding the endpoint instead of the midpoint. So my midpoint, that's my x value of the midpoint, and that's my y value of the midpoint. So -5 and 1. And then one of the endpoints, we'll just say that's x1, y1. Okay? So if I know my formula, I actually separate these. When I'm given the midpoint, I separate them, and I'm going to have -5 is equal to -7 plus x divided by 2. So if I wanted to solve for x, I need to do what? Multiply both sides by 2. So -10 is equal to -7 plus x. Add your 7, and you get what? X equals -3. So that's the x value of my endpoint. Now I need to do the same thing with my y value. So I'm going to have 1 equals -5 plus y divided by 2. Do the same thing, multiply by 2. 2 is equal to -5 plus y. Y equals 7. So my endpoint is going to be -3, 7. You have to write it as your ordered pair. You're good with that? Okay, circles. A circle is a set of all points in a plane that are at a constant distance from a fixed point, which is called your center. Okay? And that distance from the center to the outside of the circle is called your what? Radius. Yes. So, standard form for a circle whose center is at the origin is just x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Okay? Where your radius is your r. If it has a center other than the origin, so if its center is hk, your formula is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Okay, remember that this is similar to vertex form for a quadratic. It's the opposite of. So if it's x minus h squared, just like it was for quadratics, it's the opposite value of h. So here it's the opposite value of both of those x and y terms from your center. Okay? So if I give you the center and I give you the length of the radius, we have to write our equation. Okay? So if my center is -1, 3, that's my hk. So I'm going to have x plus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared equals, I take the square root of 2 and square it, and that is just 2. So r squared is 2. There's my equation of that circle. Okay? If my center is negative 3, 7, that's my HK. My radius is 5. So I'm going to have x plus 3 squared plus y minus 7 squared equals, I'm going to take that 5, square it, and that's 25. So r squared is 25. Okay? If my center is negative 2, negative 6, that's my HK. So I'm going to have x plus 2 squared plus y plus 6 squared equals, when I take 2 square root of 7 and square it, I'm taking 2 squared, which is 4. Square root of 7 times square root of 7 is just 7, which is going to give me 28. So r squared is 28. So the only work that you have to show me is squaring your radius. Okay? The rest, I mean, it's your answer. There's really nothing else to do. Y'all good with that? Okay. Now, if I give you the equation, you have to identify the center and the length of your radius, and then we're going to graph it. So if I have x minus 2 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 16, my center is going to be the opposite of those values. So it's going to be a positive 2 and a negative 3. And then I take the square root of r squared, so my radius has a length of 4. So I'm going to plot 2, negative 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 4 to the left, 4 to the right, 4 up, 4 down. So I'm going to have those 4 points around that center to where I can draw the best circle that I can. Okay? My circles are not pretty. As long as you've got the points there, you're good. Huh?
Yours looks better. So you win. Mine doesn't even really look like a circle. It looks like a rounded diamond.
My when we do ellipses next lesson, mine are rough. Those are just ovals, but mine are rough.
How do you mess up an oval? It's like messing up a rectangle.
Oh, you can though. Well, I can. Okay, what's the center for my next example? 4, 0. Now, the square root of 18 is not a perfect square. So I would simplify it. 2 and 9. 9 splits 3 and 3. So it's 3 square root of 2. Now, as a decimal, 3 square root of 2 is really, let's say we round it, 4.2. Okay? So I'm still going to plot 4, 0, and I'm going to go around 4 point, I'm going to estimate 0.2. Okay? So that really means I just go right next to the line. They're doing much better than my notes when I made the notes. This is what it was.
Yeah, like the top left one looks like what mine looks like.
Okay, but y'all understand this?
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like we've done it before, though. Strange.
Maybe with geometry.
Yeah.
Okay, now, if I'm giving you this long equation, we've got to get it into the form that we've been working with. That gives you the center. So, I'm going to group my x terms together, group my y terms together. I'm doing that because I'm completing the square for your x's and completing the square for your y's. Okay? So if I have x squared plus y squared plus 8x minus 2y plus 15 equals 0, I'm going to take x squared plus 8x and group that, plus y squared minus 2y. Now remember, I want it equal to a constant. So in the same step, I'm going to get this 15, and I'm going to move it to the right, so it's going to equal negative 15. So then, if you remember how to complete the square, you take your b and divide it by 2. So 8 divided by 2 is 4. 4 squared is 16. So this turns into x squared plus 8x plus 16. Now I added 16 to the left side of the equation. I've got to also add it to the right side of the equation. Then I'm going to do the same thing for y squared minus 2. I take my negative 2 divided by 1. That gives me negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1.
Right.
So I'm going to add 1 there and also add 1 to the right.
Wait, what's the equation? -2 over 1.
B divided by 2. When you complete the square, you take b divided by 2 and then square it.
No, you didn't divide it by 2.
I divided by 2.
Divided it by 1.
Oh,
Just
that
misspelled.
makes sense.
That
Sorry.
I didn't remember the equation, and I looked up and I got it.
Sorry.
I
Okay, so then factored form is my parentheses squared, and so what's in parentheses is going to be your x, and then what's going to go in that x, what's going to go behind it?
Like the plus 4? Is that
Uh-huh.
what you're talking about?
So plus 4. When you divide your b by 2, remember that's what goes in your factored form. Plus y minus 1 squared. Because when I divided negative 2 by 2, I get a negative 1. Equals negative 15 plus 16 plus 1 is going to give me 2. Okay? Now what's my center? If that's my equation, I need to identify my center. Negative 4, 1. And what is my radius? So r squared, remember that you're doing x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So this 2 is actually what r squared is.
So that
So it's square root of 2.
Let me do the worksheet.
So same steps. I group my x's. So x squared plus 8x plus y squared plus 6y equals, move my 15 over. It's going to equal a positive 15. So if I complete the square, I've already done x squared plus 8x in the last example. So I know that's going to be x squared plus 8x plus 16. When I complete the square for y squared plus 6y, 6 divided by 2 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So do not forget to add plus 16 plus 9. Factored form is going to give me x plus 4 squared plus y plus 3 squared equals 15 plus 16 plus 9. Okay.
Oh, you're right, that's fine.
What's my center? Okay, my radius, I take the square root of 40. It's going to be 2 square root of 10. Are good with that? Okay. Now, those examples, I already had coefficients of 1 for my x squared and y squared. If you have coefficients in front of x squared and y squared, you divide by them. Now, if it's a circle, they've got to be the same coefficients because you're dividing the whole thing by that. So see how both of those are a 3? I'm going to divide all of these terms by 3. So it leaves me with x squared plus y squared plus 2x minus 8y minus 4 equals 0. And then I group x squared plus 2x plus y squared minus 8y equals 4.
Negative.
So x squared plus 2x, what am I going to add there? A 1 plus y squared minus 8y, what am I going to add there? 16 equals 4. Now, when you took out, no, never mind. I'm thinking of ellipses. Never mind.
Okay.
I just did those notes. That's why I'm doing it. Okay, that gives me x plus 1 squared plus y minus 4 squared equals what?
Oh, wait, let's add up.
21. Y'all good with that? Okay. So we are not going to have a quiz over that one. I'm going to teach you ellipses, and then we're going to have a quiz over circles and ellipses. Okay? There's a back.
Yeah, there's 2 problems.
Y'all, it's Friday, and my notes are getting crisscrossed in my head. All right.
Just stop, beat your head.
Yeah. The circle has its center at 8, negative 9, and passes through the point 21, 22. What's wrong?
Dumb. Answer yourself.
What's the matter? All right, center, HK, passes through the point 21, 22. You can do this 2 separate ways. Okay? You can take the 2 points, find the distance formula. That gives you your radius. My first thought is not to do that. My first thought, this is my x and y. If my formula is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, the only thing I'm missing is what? R squared. So what I do is not the distance formula, though you'll get the same answer. I just plug in my x, h, yk, and get r squared. So I'm going to have my parentheses, 21 minus 8 squared plus 22 plus 9 squared equals r squared. What's 21 minus 8 squared? Say that again. 169.
Yeah.
Plus 22 plus 9 squared.
969.
Alright, what's 169 plus 961? Say it loud. Huh?
1,130.
Now, do I need to take the square root of that? No, because you're just looking for your r squared. So my formula, or my equation, is x minus h, so x minus 8 squared, plus y minus k, which is y plus 9 squared, equals my r squared, okay? Now, the circle is tangent to the x-axis and has its center at 6, -5. I have to draw myself a picture here. My center is 6, -5, so that's somewhere about here. Okay? It's tangent to the x-axis. What does that mean? Do y'all know? It touches the x-axis. So my circle is going to look something like that. So if it touches the x-axis, what's my radius?
Five.
This is why I draw a picture, because I have to visualize. That's going to be my y value, which is 5. Do y'all understand that? Okay.
So that would be
So what's my equation?
x minus 6 squared plus y times 100 equals 25.
You're good with that? Now we're done.